understanding that charge, do you wish to enter a plea, sir? You can't vape while you're in court.
Who?
Not guilty.
You, sir.
This ain't no vape. I was picking my teeth. I was just picking meat out my teeth. This is
all right. I just saw you. People do it all the time, and I got to tell them all the time, you got to do all the same things you would do in court. All right. I take it back. All right. I'll tell you what, I'm going to call you at this 909 number. Can you answer your phone?
This is all Rocky London's fault. She knows I'm a sucker for some of this judge. It's just fun.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system 909.
All right, you didn't pick up in time. I'm going to call again. This 909 number is you, right?
Hello?
Okay, yeah, it's more important that I hear you than whether or not I can see you. So if you just leave that phone channel open, we'll be fine. Matter of fact, because your phone's working, we can just, I'm going to remove you so that there won't be an echo with your audio pickup. And you can still hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a citation. This happened on May 21st of this year on I-196 there at Fillmore Township. This is a speeding citation on an actual 95 and a 70. However, a trooper only wrote you 1 to 5 over a limited access speeder. So, Mr. Apala, you are here on a 1 to 5 over speeding ticket to do one of 3 things. First is you could admit responsibility to the citation. Or 2, you could admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation to court as to how or why this happened. Or 3, you wish to contest this citation. In other words, to fight this ticket at what we call informal hearing. What were you looking to do? Mr. Apala, let me tell you something before you decide. The ticket that this trooper decided to give you is the ticket usually everybody is hoping to get because it is the only speeding ticket that has 0 points. Do you know what I mean by points?
Yeah.
So 95 and a 70 is like 4-point ticket. He wrote you a 0-point ticket. The only penalty for going 1 to 5 over on limited access is the fines and costs. So you could contest the ticket if you want, and if I find you not guilty of any speeding, you would have no fine. But if you fought the ticket, we would have a hearing. The trooper could ask to amend it up to one that includes points, or at least to knock off. I probably wouldn't let him change the amount of speed, but I could certainly let him change the limited access nature of it, and you might get points. So I just want you to know before you decide what to do, you have the ticket right now that everybody is hoping that their ticket gets changed to. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
All right. So what is it you would like to do here today? What were you looking to do?
Just give an explanation.
All right. And what is it you'd like to tell me?
I was just driving and there was like a hazard on the side of the road, and so I just drove around it. There was like a broken car in the middle of the road.
Okay. Well,
all around it.
I mean, a hazard in the road, I understand why that would make you drive around it, but that usually would make people drive slower, right? You don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, there there was a lot of traffic trying to get around.
All right. Well, the good news is, like I said, the trooper used his discretion to give you about well, it is actually the wimpiest speeding ticket he could give you. So right now, what you do on that is you owe $100 in fines and costs, but you get 0 points. You understand that?
Right.
So we're all set for what we need to do in court. You just need to call the court, make arrangements, change that to pay that fines and costs. All right.
I was just hoping to get the ticket maybe dropped, just because it wasn't me choosing to speed. I
Okay.
was driving the right speed, and then
Well, I can't drop your ticket. The trooper could drop your ticket, but it seems like he already dropped it way down. I'm not sure he's willing to drop it all together.
I think he'd understand if I was trying to drive the right speed, which
Well, but you were kind of failing miserably, right? You were going 95 and a 70 with a hazard on the road.
that's the speed I always.
I waited my whole life to hear a judge say that. I was trying to do this. Well, you were failing. And he wasn't even mean about it. He just stated it as the fact that it is.
Well, then you're going to get pulled over all the time. You may not get pulled over for going 78 and a 70, but you're going to get pulled over every time by all law enforcement for 95 and a 70. That's 25 miles over the speed limit.
That was just the speed. I was trying to drive the correct speed.
Well, you failed miserably. The correct speed would be in the neighborhood of 70 miles an hour. You understand that, right?
Until that hazard.
But why would a hazard make it okay to be driving way faster? That doesn't make any sense at all.
That's just the speed it was at.
Well, that's the speed you were at. What do you mean it?
I was trying. I wasn't trying to drive fast. I was trying to drive.
Carefully, because there was a hazard in the road?
Yeah.
And your careful speed was 25 miles over the speed limit? Matter of fact, if we keep talking, I might let this trooper amend the ticket up. You should stop asking for mercy. You got mercy. Any more mercy, and I would start to be offended by the discretion of the trooper. All right?
I was just giving my explanation.
I know, and you did, sir. But
I also like the troopers fighting back a smile this whole time.
you know, your explanation makes no sense.
It's just sometimes it's unsafe to drive on the road.
Okay, do you know what else is unsafe? Driving 25 miles over the speed limit, even if there's nothing blocking your way. I just want you to leave this conversation understanding 95 and a 70 is not going to be okay. You're going to get pulled over every time you're going that fast. Maybe not over by Detroit. That's a little more acceptable over there.
Like I've never had a speeding ticket.
All right.
And so that's why I just like I pride myself on like my clean record of driving.
All right.
And so that's why I just wanted I wanted to know that.
So we're all set for what we need to do here today for court. You just need to make arrangements to pay that fines and costs. You understand?
It's my understanding that it would also go on my record.
Yes.
I hope you know.
But the officer could drop the ticket.
He could. Let's just ask him because he's been listening to me. Trooper, would you like to drop this ticket?
I think we're good with the 1 to 5 over, sir.
All right. So that's where we're at. We're stuck with the ticket 1 to 5 over. Now you could have a hearing where you say, I wasn't speeding, and we could have a hearing. You have a right to do that, but you chose to admit the responsibility to 1 to 5 over, just so we're clear on what your options are.
I think it wasn't fair in this situation. I was trying to get over to drive quick.
Okay. Would you like to have a hearing? Where I would have to decide whether or not you were in fact speeding? That's your only other option, really.
I can tell you where the judge is leaning based upon your open admission several times.
I wasn't speeding. I was just trying to drive safely.
Oh, boy. So you don't think going 95 and a 70 is speeding? You're going to make me have to have a hearing, and I'm going to let this trooper amend his ticket to what he's saying you were really doing, and then we'll have a hearing and I'll decide whether or not you were speeding. Because you telling me you weren't speeding is one thing. In other words, if you're telling me that you think you were going 70 miles an hour, that I don't want to put words in your mouth. We could have a hearing and that wouldn't be speeding. I'm just looking at the ticket right now. I have no testimony in front of me, but the ticket sure says that if the trooper was testifying, he would put your speed at well above 70, which is how we define the word speeding. So you can tell me if you don't think you were going faster than the speed limit, then certainly it's your right to have a hearing.
What kind of hearing would it be?
Literally an informal hearing. The trooper would tell me why it is he wrote you a ticket for speeding, and you would tell me why it is you don't think you were speeding. And then I would decide whether I think you were speeding or not. But I just want you to be clear. The definition of speeding means there's a speed limit, right? That's how fast you're allowed to go. And then there's how fast you were going. And if I find how fast you were going was above the speed limit that you're allowed to go, then you are speeding. That's what we'd have a hearing about. You understand?
Not if you're just trying to avoid the hazard at the road.
Okay, then you should have a hearing.
All right. Yeah, maybe I'll do the informal.
All right, then I cannot see you, but please raise your right hand the same way the trooper is going to raise his right hand. Do you swear or affirm all the testimony you're about to testify to is true, is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yeah.
Trooper, you want to pick up the narrative? Oh, Mr. Opala, it makes a lot more sense for me to start with the trooper. He has the burden to establish why he issued you a citation in the first place. And then after that, it'll be your opportunity to either ask questions or testify on your own behalf. Does that make sense?
All right.
All right. So, Trooper, if you could please pick up the narrative and explain why it is you issued this citation.
Yes, sir. So as we were talking about on May 21st, 2024, I began my shift at approximately 6 a.m., checking my moving radar in. There was no functions. All lights were functioning. And I also did a speed check as I was driving, observing that it was matching my patrol vehicle speed. So again, moving forward to approximately 7:11 a.m., I was on patrol, actively doing speed enforcement in the area of US 31 and 196. I was facing southbound, which is technically looking at eastbound 196 traffic. At that time on my moving radar, I initially observed a speed on my radar of 95 miles per hour. It was earlier in the morning and it was cloudy. And I observed a vehicle at a high rate of speed in the right lane heading eastbound 196 in my direction. I observed that it was faster than all other traffic in the area as I could observe it pulling away from all the other vehicles behind it. I observed it to be a black Nissan truck. And I had at that time, that 95, I received a matching tone off my radar indicating that it was indeed a correct read. Additionally, my vehicle speed was matching up with my patrol car at that time as well, indicating that it was a strong and correct read as well. At that time, I observed the vehicle pass my location. I took a median turn and got behind it, performing a traffic stop. Again, at that venue of eastbound 196 near the US 31 split, Fillmore Township, County of Allegan. I made contact with the sole occupant and driver who was identified with his Michigan driver's license, Michael Apala. I don't have any notes as far as his statements regarding speed. That being said, I do have notes that he just stated he was coming from Berrien Springs and he was going to a Jamba Juice at an unknown mall in Grand Rapids. Again, I don't know if he made any confession statements on that time, but again, my testimony testifies to that speed. The vehicle is identified as a 2012 Nissan Frontier pickup truck, black in color. I believe.
All right, Mr. Apollo, what is it you'd like to tell me?
Yeah, I just think that it wasn't safe to be driving right there. I was trying to drive quick and safe. I agree that's in my
Okay, I have a question for you, Mr. Apollo. In what universe is it safer for you to drive faster than slower?
When it's not your decision, when you're put in that situation and you try to drive safely.
Okay, so you have a ticket here that's accusing you of going faster than the posted 70 miles an hour. How fast is it that you think you were going?
I was just trying to drive back to the slow lane.
Okay, that's not really an answer to my question. You heard the trooper testify that by his radar, you're going 95. How fast is it that you think you were going if you don't think you were speeding?
I was driving like 60 miles an hour.
Oh, so you were going 10 miles under the speed limit?
Right.
Oh, all right. I didn't realize that you were contesting that you were speeding. So do you think, okay, so you were saying you were going 10 miles under the speed limit, you think?
Right.
All right.
I was driving 67.
All right. And so for that, I'm going to go back to the trooper then, because there's you understand it would be very difficult for him to be saying 95 and you to be saying 60. That's not really physically possible. So trooper, how is it that we're going to confirm here that the vehicle that Mr. Apollo was driving is in fact the car that you pulled over? Mr. Apollo says he's going 60 miles an hour. I think you said the first thing that drew your attention to the vehicle was a visual of a high rate of speed?
Yes, sir. It was visually the fastest vehicle. There were no other vehicles that were going faster than his vehicle. The way my radar works, with a strong read, it was the closest one with no vehicles between us. It's the way it works is it's going to grab that car. And as soon as he passed, he dropped off of my radar range. In other words, the cone confirmed basically as he went past it, that speed dropped off, indicating that it was that vehicle. I never lost sight of it. I turned behind it and performed my traffic stop.
And I think you said it, but I'm going to ask you, did
Yes.
you ever lose sight of the vehicle that you intended to pull over?
To my knowledge, I turned immediately. As soon as he did it, without watching my video, I'm a little caught. I do not believe in any way that I ever lost sight of him. I knew he was speeding. I knew I wanted to stop him. As soon as he passed my location, I was at that split or the turnaround just south of the split, and I took it immediately and got behind him. And I stopped him very quickly. So I would testify that I did not lose sight of him in any way.
And do you recall anything on the road as far as a hazard or what he's referring to as some sort of thing that he had to try to avoid?
I have no knowledge of that. And I also have no recollection throughout our traffic stop of any conversation related to an object. We talked about where he was going, kind of some of the reason for speed. It didn't make, again, even in the moment that day, it didn't really make sense what he had going on. But I had no memory of any objects that would be moving around. And I also, not that it pertains, but I also agree. I don't know how an object would cause speed to increase instead of decrease.
And did you have any problems with your radar after this citation?
No, sir. It was checked in at the beginning and end of my shift, documented on my daily that it was at no point throughout the day did I have any issues. Matter of fact, it's a newly issued radar that I've had put in. I had no issues throughout my day.
And so, Mr. Apollo, I would find you responsible on the 1 to 5 over on, I'm actually going to amend it to 257.627. It's the same fine, it's $100, but I'm going to take the limited access away. Therefore, he's appraised of the speed he was going and just not the benefit of limited access. So, Mr. Apala, you do still owe the $100 we talked about, but now your rights change a little bit. Because you had a contested hearing, you would have a right to say, I don't agree with what just happened there. I want to go to formal hearing. Formal hearing is in front of the district court judges with the prosecutor's office. But in order for you to go to formal hearing, you would have to do two things. First is you would have to ask for that within 7 days of today's date. After that 1 week window, your opportunity to contest this further closes. And secondly, you would have to come in and ask for that because you would have to post a cash bond in the same amount as the fine. Do you understand your rights on appeal? All right. Then we're all set for what we needed to do here today, sir. I'm going to go ahead and release you. Thank you. You're all set. Thank you. All right. These are citations from May 15th of this year on.
Oh, that was fun. Judge did ring him up a little bit.
On Church Street there, City of Wayland. One ticket is for seatbelt violation and the other ticket is for no proof of insurance. So you're on these citations to do one of three things. First is you could admit responsibility to a citation, or two, admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation as to how or why this happened, or three, you wish to contest the citation. In other words, fight it at what we call informal hearing. What were you looking to do?
Admit to it with an explanation if possible, sir.
All right. And what is it you'd like to tell me?
Well, I take total responsibility for the fact that my daughter wasn't in a proper seatbelt at the time of the I don't want to say arrest. I didn't get arrested, but
the stop. We just call it a stop.
A stop. Yeah.
Traffic stop.
But there was honestly, sir, there was no reason at all for the officer to pull me over at the time. I gave him no probable cause. It was during, I don't know exactly what was going on in Wayland at the time. They were having I don't know if there was a bike rally or something of that nature that was going on. A lot of the roads were blocked off and whatnot. It was multiple cars trailing each other at the time. And at the time, the police officer was even stationary. He was stopped. I proceeded to come to approach a stop sign. Cars were in front of me. Cars were behind me. I drove past the officer. And even when I drove past him, he still didn't come out until after he seen me, he looked at me. And I don't know if I fit the description or someone or
well,
what.
Mr. Ellis, instead of you guessing, we can ask the officer. He's here. Normally, I tell you right now, if they don't see a seatbelt, they'll pull that over every time for what they call click it or ticket. But sometimes it's also because they're just running the plate, and the plate comes back. Either you don't have registration, or you don't have insurance. But we'll just ask him. He's here. Officer Hudson, what was the initial reason for the stop?
The initial reason for the traffic stop was when I did run Mr. Ellis's plate, it did show that the vehicle was not insured.
Yeah. So in other words, officers just sit there all day long. As soon as they can see a car's license plate, they type it into their computer. The Secretary of State kind of rats you out and will say, hey, there's no insurance registered for this plate number. And then they pull you over every time.
Yeah, no, sir, but that wasn't the case, sir. The officer like I say, it was 2 or 3 cars that were in front of me that went past. I approached the stop sign. He notices me and then proceeds to come out. I gave him no reason to come out. He comes out. He runs my plate. I expressed to him that I had insurance, in which I have insurance on the car now.
Well, hold on a second. You're saying he pulled you over before he ever ran your plate. That's not what I heard him say. Let's just ask him. Officer Hudson, what was the issue of why you pulled Mr. Ellis over in the first place?
Because when I ran his license plate, the Secretary of State showed that it did not have insurance.
So I tell you, Mr. Ellis, that's probably the most common reason anybody would ever get pulled over is because they're just sitting there typing your plate in as soon as they can see it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's to the discretion. Like I say, if that was the case, why did I get picked out of getting pulled over? You see what I'm saying?
Because when he typed in the other person's license plate, it said they did have insurance. I don't know. What I'm saying is, sir, you would get pulled over by any police officer anywhere when the Secretary of State reports back, there is no insurance affiliated with that license plate.
Well, when I
So it
expressed
has nothing to do with you as the driver, which is, I think, maybe what you're kind of implying here.
well,
But
yeah, I don't know. What do you call that?
profiling. Well,
Yeah,
let me ask you a
so-
question, Mr. Ellis. If the car in front of you, he runs that plate and there's no problems, and then you show up, then he runs your plate and it says there's no insurance, which one of those two cars do you think he's going to pull over?
Well, here's the thing, sir. Like, and I even expressed this to the officer because I work for Amazon. I have to have insurance. The reason why that he showed in his file or on his computer that I didn't have insurance because I missed a payment. It wasn't that the car wasn't insured. It shows that the insurance
So you didn't have insurance.
was canceled because the payment wasn't made. All I had to do was make the
You
payment.
better bet your insurance company reports that to Secretary of State about 30 seconds after they do that.
No, sir. I like I expressed to him. Once I made the payment, the cancellation is
Mr.
cleared
Ellis,
from.
then here's what you're saying. What you're saying is that when he ran your plate, he's making it up. The Secretary of State didn't actually have that plate flagged as no insurance. And coincidentally, it just happens you didn't have insurance. That doesn't make any sense. What makes sense is when he ran your plate, Secretary of State ratted you out as no insurance. Otherwise, that's a super good guess on his part that even though it says you have insurance, he just guessed, oh, well, let me pull him over anyway, because I bet that's not true and he really doesn't have insurance. You just need to think about it a little more, sir. I get what you're concerned about, but I'm telling you, I have no concerns about the same thing.
I'm not making this up, sir. I'm giving you the information that was given to me from my insurance company. My insurance company stated that the reason why they're showing that the insurance was not current at the time was because of the lack of payment. As soon as I made the payment, this is what was expressed to me. As soon as I make the payment, my insurance is reinstated.
Sir, what your insurance company tells you would not be the important information. It's what Secretary of State tells you of whether or not you were on the list or not on the list at time of stop. That would be the relevant information. The insurance company could be telling you anything. That's neither here nor there. What the officer's saying is when he runs the plate, comes back no insurance. That has nothing to do with your insurance company. That's all Secretary of State. Now, if the Secretary of State told you, hey, we never had you as no insurance, I don't know what that officer's talking about, then we have an issue with what you're saying. But what your insurance company tells you is neither here nor there. Is what the Secretary of State's information had. The officer's not asking.
Well, sir,
not getting information from.
I haven't had any communication with the Secretary of State, but
All right, Mr. Ellis, I'm going to wrap this up because I've been going down this rabbit hole a lot for you. You don't have any contact with Secretary of State about your insurance. That's not what happened. What happened is your insurance company told Secretary of State, hey, that person's no longer insured by us.
I'm fully insured, sir. I have insurance.
That may be the case. But what I'm telling you is what happened in this moment of time when you got stopped is your plate was coming back to his computer, no insurance. And lo and behold, you didn't have proof of insurance, right?
At the time, no, I did not.
At the time.
At the time, no, I did not.
We're all set for what we need to do here. All you need to do is make arrangements to pay those fines and costs, though. Otherwise, we're all set for what we need to do in court.
Well, I still, even though I have full coverage right now, I still have to pay $200 for no proof of insurance citation.
Well, sir, the problem is on May 15th at 6:09 p.m. you did have insurance. That's what it is that we're dealing with. That I have to decide whether or not at that moment in time he's right in issuing you a citation. You may have fixed it since then.
I'm sorry, sir. Your volume is low on your end, sir. I can barely hear you.
Okay. Executive branch writes you a citation. Judicial branch, what I would have to decide is not whether or not you fixed it and you have insurance now. I have to decide whether or not on May 15th at 6:09 p.m. you had insurance.
Well, typically, as long as I show good faith in that I have full coverage on my vehicle, they waive those charges, sir.
Who are you talking about? I'm the one that would be waiving the charges.
I'm sorry?
Who is it that you're talking about that typically would waive your charges?
Courts.
How often
This
do you
isn't
get
the
pulled
first.
over
This
for
isn't. This isn't. I've been in a particular instance like
Yeah. Tell the judge about how courts handle these things.
this before, where I had to clear it up, sir. I've been in. This isn't. I'm 43 years old. I've been in a situation like this before. And I
Okay.
mean, like I said, I'm coming to you in good faith, letting you know that my car is fully insured. I'm owning responsibility for the seatbelt violation. I don't mind compensating for the seatbelt violation, but I mean, I don't understand why I have to pay for a vehicle that has insurance.
Well, first of all, now you're asking for mercy from the court. The whole first half of this conversation is you're telling me I have an officer in Wayland that's pulling you over, profiling you because of your
I still feel strongly
identity.
about that, sir. I still feel strongly about that. Like I say, I would have to put you at the scene of the incident for you to kind of understand where I'm coming from.
Okay, but listen
no
to
reason
me,
to
sir.
even pull out on me.
Listen to me, sir.
You
made your decision that's how you want to do it.
He pulled
Listen
out
to me.
on me for
Mr.
no
Ellis,
absolute. I wasn't
we're
speeding.
done here.
I used my blinker.
Hey,
I didn't
Mr.
give him
Ellis.
any probable cause to
All
even
right.
get behind me to
We're
run
all
my
set.
plate.
I was going to explain it to you more, sir, but if that's how you're going to handle yourself, we can just finish. You admitted responsibility to those citations, sir. You owe the fines on both those citations. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I think we need one of these.
Hell no.
All right, that was too much fun. Thanks again, Rocky, for that. Those were, I really enjoyed those clips. I really did. And yes, sir, there's lots of questions in the chat. It's not my usual thing. I just had somebody send me an order. They know who it is. Thank you very much. I might do something on the Tonsil Twins order. I mean, the short version from what I saw, she got spanked, which is appropriate and what I expected. I don't know if I have anything new to add to it. But I know Dave was all over it on his thing. I posted that in my community tab. It looks like her reign of terror is over. That's my take on it. It's pretty good. So thank y'all for coming out. I actually have to depose a doctor right now. Probably should put a shirt on before I do that. I'll see y'all soon.